everyone. Hey, congratulations on your new film, The Veil.
Thank
Thank you
Oh,
so
you.
thank
much.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jake.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to watch how these films actually came about. So, Cameron, let me throw the first question to you: is where the original idea actually came from for The Veil?
Sure. Well, it's the synthesis of a couple of different ideas that had been gestating a long time. One, I'd been developing a story about a massive solar storm that causes the power to completely black out all through Los Angeles. But I just could never make it work. It was just kind of a fun imagery, but it doesn't really work. And then I'd been developing another story that was just kind of like a take on a very classic ghost story that I always forget to tell this because it's buried so far back in my mind. I must have like buried it deep. But when I was a little kid at camp, at sleepaway camp, I heard this story, this ghost story about a young bride who was murdered in their honeymoon cabin, like on the grounds. And so I was always be hanging out the campfire, like scared I'd see her in the woods. And so something about that kind of permeated into like this ghost story idea. But that also I didn't know where it went. But when I had the idea to combine the two and set them in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where I happened to just be at the time. I was kind of inspired by my immediate surroundings. I have family back there. Um, and more specifically, making the bride character a member of the Amish community really seemed to light up a lot of inspiration for me. And the more research I did, the more I realized this was absolutely the right tack to take. You know, there's a whole history of conflict between the Amish and the Roman Catholics that I, growing up as Catholic, had no idea about, and priests I talk to today still have no idea about. But it's written down in a book in the Amish community that they called Martyr's Mirror that they passed down, and so the more I read into that, the more I was like, oh well, this is what the story always needed to be, and it just kind of wrote itself from there.
Well said, Rebecca. Sean, what drew you in that you wanted to be part of this project?
Well, the script. I was sent the script. Kyle and I got connected with it through Kyle's friend Donna Wheeler, who's a director, and so I got a script right away, and it was fascinating. Um, I read it a couple of times right away, just really fast, and it was like no script I'd ever read before. It read fast, but it was just so unique, and it had all the elements of movies that I like to watch. So even reading it, I was thinking to myself, even if I'm not in this, I want to watch this movie. Um, and I just the script was fascinating, and I know, I grew up Catholic, and I have a couple of friends that are priests that I knew. My dad was friends with one of the priests, and so I knew him pretty well because he would come over to the house a lot, and I'm just really familiar with that, just growing up Catholic in private schools, and so I identified with the character on that level. And just reading, just on the other, just outside of being a priest, I just identified with Douglas. I thought he was a fascinating guy, and I just was really hoping that I would be in it, and I was.
Yeah, similar to Sean, the script. The script was just incredible. I flew through it in one sitting. I cried at the end. It was just mysterious and interesting and unique. And I just wanted to know what would happen next. And I felt like if I'm reading it that way, I feel like, it's going to translate on screen so beautifully. And I fell in love with Hannah immediately. For whatever reason, I just was like, I got to play this character. I just instantly connected to her, even though she lives a very different life than I do. I don't know. I felt a instant kind of protection over her, and I wanted the opportunity to be able to bring her to life. And I felt like I, just she would just be such an interesting character to portray and explore, and she had so much nuance and complexity and layers going on, and I just thought like what a wonderful opportunity that would be. and of course the team, Cameron and Kyle. I didn't know Sean was attached yet, so that also helped make the decision of just talking to them about the story and the script and the character and what they wanted to do with it. Just instantly, I was like, I got to be a part of this. It just was a kind of a no brainer. I didn't even really have to think about it or go, oh, should I do this or should I not? It was just like, I'm in if you'll have me. So yeah.
Well said. Well said. You know, for being such a small, intimate cast, one of the things that we forget is the house itself is also a character. Tell us about that house, how it's all decorated and so on, and why did you have to make it so authentic to film it in Pennsylvania? You could have found that house in like Southern California somewhere too.
Right. So part of it was a little practical. I have a young family, and we have family ties in the area, and so there were a lot of built-in resources in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. My uncle was an art teacher there for a long time, is really well enmeshed in the arts community, and I knew that anywhere we shot this, we would have to depend on the local community and local artisans and things like that to really make this thing sing. So that right there kind of, it was never a question of shooting anywhere else. As far as finding the house is concerned, it took a couple tries to find the right house. And we had a house all lined up that fell through kind of at the last minute. And it happened to be that while our director of photography was out scouting locations, he was able to look at this Airbnb we found that kind of matched the vibe. And it actually ended up being uh, perfect, but also just super fascinating because it was not just a little air. It wasn't just a little farmhouse. It was an entire compound. It was a house. The main house was built in the mid 1700s, and it used to be um, uh, the what a member of George Washington's like officer um, entourage, for lack of a better word, was the resident there, and there was an old mill that was kind of off to the side that they were using as the Airbnb. That when we put those two locations together, they became our farmhouse, and it offered everything we needed from both a creative standpoint, but also from just a logistical standpoint. All the practical concerns that kind of lead up to a large footprint on a film crew, this location offered that, and as remote as it was perfect.
Well said. Now, in the case for this film, a lot of stuff happened in the dark. So I want to know is how did you guys actually manage to, the production in the dark? Let me ask the actors first, Rebekah and Sean. As actors, how do you cope acting in the dark with very little lighting in this case?
That is a really interesting question. Uh, I think it helped. It helped me. I mean, I just don't have any problem acting in the dark. In fact, I prefer it because that way I feel like people can't see me. I can be a bad actor and nobody will see it. No, I'm just kidding. I it provided a mood. This piece was dark, and my character was in a really dark space. So I thought I haven't consciously thought about that question that until now. It just helped for me. I don't know about Rebekah, but it was just very easy.
Yeah, so we shot day for night. So anyone that doesn't know what that means, it's like we shot during the day, but they made it look like night, which was which was nice because then we didn't, as actors, we didn't have to stay up all night for 10 days, which is a lot. And fun when you're young, not so fun when you're not young. But in terms of like what they made it look like, yeah, similar to Sean, it kind of just sets the mood. It puts you in the space. It You don't have to pretend that it's dark. It just is, and it adds a kind of a creepy element. So when I'm looking at Sean, especially in the scene at the beginning when we first kind of meet and he offers me the sandwich and we're talking back and forth, it was dark in that room. So and Cameron, gave me specific direction to when I was looking at Sean, and every time I would look at him, he had kind of a interesting, kind of creepy look to him. So it was like, for me as an actor, I'm thinking about, okay, Hannah is like, do I trust him? Do I not trust him? Am I gonna eat the sandwich and run? Am I gonna take the first opportunity to get out of here? So it just kind of adds another layer to the performance, and everything is a gift, everything. So I try to look at whatever is happening, whatever the circumstance is, whatever it is I can use as an actor, is gold for me.
Kyle, Cameron, can you add anything about this type of shooting?
Sure, yeah. So, as Rebekah mentioned, we shot day for night, which helped a lot. Just for the sheer purpose of being able to see our way through and stumble through the through the location. We had colored gels on the windows to simulate the light from the aurora coming through. So we didn't have to necessarily block off all of the windows and black them out and make it look like nighttime inside. Another thing was our DP came up with this really great solution for the candlelight because it's all when you're seeing candlelight, we are lighting with only that. We aren't using any sort of film lights in the traditional sense. And he found they're called triple wick candles that burn really, really bright, and they create kind of a large flame. But it was when we had that paired with our camera, which as it was the red Gemini, so its sensor is specifically engineered for like space photography. So it is meant to pick up a lot more light than your standard digital camera. And so having those two elements together, I think really allowed us to really make the most of this very deliberately minimal lighting scheme.
Yeah. And it was so important for us to really nail the lighting, get it right. We have felt for a while now that lighting hasn't been used as a tool for cinematics. And for us, lighting is what sets a lot of the tone in this movie. And so it was really important for us that each layer of light was purposeful between the green aurora outside, the candle lights inside, and how we could use that to capture the emotion of the moment without giving too much away. And it really allows for an intimate connection with exactly what's happening with the characters in that moment. You aren't looking at even in the pretty gorgeous aurora fueled outdoor scenes that we have, that you're allowed to capture the epicness of what's going on, but it's still held in an intimate way. And playing with the lights and shadows the way we did, I think really solidified the performance that our actors were giving us. And it led to what I feel is a really moody film that also you don't lose any of the contrast of, because we did the lighting appropriately.
Absolutely. I mean, it sets the mood for a ghost story perfectly. And Rebekah, this question is for you. I know Sean addressed about the religious background, but Rebekah, how did you get into your Amish character? I'm not assuming, or are we assuming that you have a little bit of Amish in your background?
No, you would assume correct. Yeah, so I of course did my own research. Cameron recommended a documentary I watched, but the most helpful thing was Cameron and Kyle actually connected me with a woman who used to be in the Amish community, and we talked over Zoom, and we talked for an hour and a half, and she let me ask anything I wanted to ask. No question was off the table, which was incredible for me because I could really ask how they would handle situations, how they would handle divorce, how would they handle running away, how would they handle wanting to leave a relationship, what would that look like, was that even a possibility, how does that affect her, the community. She just gave me so much information as well, and I took pages of notes and little things that I could hopefully try to add in as we were shooting, Cameron's beautiful script, like, praying before a meal, or certain hand gestures she gave me that, are sprinkled throughout, that, people may or may not pick up on. But that was just so helpful to know the risk that Hannah was taking by leaving was, it's interesting. So if you join the Amish church and then you want to leave, you can no longer speak to your family. So knowing that my character had joined and then I was running away and looking at a life that was outside of the community, what risk that would be and devastation to leave your family behind. As Rebekah, that is something that is hard to even imagine because I'm very close to my family. I talk to my mom like several times a week. Um, and so to put myself in that situation of potentially never speaking to them again was really hard to even wrap my head around. But that was the situation she was in. And those kind of things that that woman told me and helped me understand really helped layer the character and know where I was coming from and what kind of decision, how big of a decision I was making in the moment.
Wow. And and the Amish people could actually use the telephone. I was still trying to wrap my head around that in the film.
Yeah, so they're not allowed to have one in their home, but they're allowed to use other people's. They're not allowed to drive, but they're allowed to ride in a car. So there are things that they're allowed to do. And now, without giving anything away of the film, certain obviously it's set in a certain time period. But now, a lot of the Amish have phones in their barns. They can have a phone in the barn that they can talk, use. So yeah, so all those things helped me really understand the script and things that you can't really look up. Those are a lot of facts that you can't just like Google and find. So being able to talk to her was pretty much everything. It made such a difference for playing her.
Kyle, you want to add?
Yeah, Gig, I just wanted to say I actually spoke with an Amish gentleman on the phone during the shoot because it was important for us that we weren't just coming into the community and saying our own thing and then leaving, but we actually patronized a few Amish businesses. In fact, when you see it, there is a big hero shot where Hannah is running through the woods and the camera is lifting up. That is not a drone shot. That is actually a crane that we got from an Amish business that sent it to us on an 18-wheeler. They couldn't drive it over to us. They had a non-Amish person drive it to us. They had contracted it with them. But we would not have the movie that we have without have contracting with that Amish business in the first place.
Wow, I did not know that. And I'm curious, Rebekah, you didn't communicate with this Amish woman via Zoom, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, she's no longer in the Amish community. So,
Oh,
but yeah, we talked over Zoom. So that was it was just like so helpful. I honestly, if I hadn't been able to talk to her, um, I would have done the film, but it would have been a much different film for me. It would have been a much different experience because I wouldn't have had all the information going in, and you have to know everything, right? You have to know as much as you can about the life that you're living, that you're portraying, especially when you're portraying something that is real. And for certain, some people that watch it maybe know more about the Amish community or have been in the Amish community or know people that are. And I wanted to be as respectful and honest, truthful performance as I could give within the script.
well said, well said. Well, I've taken a lot of time for everyone, but I just want to leave with one more question. Where did you guys find that car?
It's actually two cars.
Oh,
Yeah, we found a local car owner in Pennsylvania who we rented from for the day. And then we actually had to finish the film in Los Angeles on a soundstage during a day of reshoots. And for that, we went to Cinema Vehicles, which is a big film auto rental company. So I mean, that was that's what they do. So it was very easy and one and done. Both gave us technical troubles. so no more 70s set scenes for me.
well said. Well, everyone, thank you very much for speaking to us about the veil. It's really appreciative. Very keeps us guessing all the way to the end to see what actually happened. So, really appreciate the story. Really appreciate everyone's performance, and really appreciate you carrying this conversation with us. It is very insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
Thanks
for
for
having
taking the
me.
Thanks,
time.
Gig.